Hey Stacy's class. So this is the first of a three-part tutorial series on my personal process for modeling for VizDev. So we're gonna get just straight right into it with the modeling part. I just made a plane, and I'm using the inputs on the side to adjust how many edge loops it's got, and then rotating it 90 degrees. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm going to make a segment of the interior panel of that boat in the last tutorial that I recorded with Stephanie. And that is going to be, like, I originally was going to do an entire room scene, but then when I was talking to Stacy about it, she wanted it to be pretty simple. So all I'm going to do is make a metallic panel with some beams going down it and some wooden planks across it. Now, this is the first beam. I'm only modeling one, and then I can just repeat them across by just duplicating this object. So I extruded out. I brought the edge loops in, and I extruded out. I'm going to put another edge loop in between. And then I'm going to actually clean up my geometry as I go. This is an important thing in modeling because you want to avoid just like leaving a mess behind. You want to make it as clean as possible, as early as possible, and it's going to save you so much time in the long run. It's really just kind of a habit to get into. I'm extruding more, just extruding out, making it like kind of an I-beam shape, and then I'm going to clean up those tops just like I did the last one. It's really important to just make sure that you're, especially when you're polymodeling like this, you're being clean with it. You're not like just making your life miserable down the line when you're testing it and you wind up with like 3 or 4 NGONS in places you can barely get to and you don't know how to add edge loops to fix them. So right now I'm just adjusting the size and proportion and shape to get what I kind of want it to get to. And this is just by pushing and pulling faces. I don't have symmetry on, but by the way that I'm modeling, I'm keeping everything symmetrical still. And you can see me periodically just like maneuvering around it, checking the geometry, checking the proportions, and all the different ways that they, all the different proportions of the object, just making sure that it's like how I'd like it. Right here I'm going to use Bevel, which is up in Edit Mesh, and I'm using middle mouse to slide the bevel in and out until I get exactly how I'd like it. You can also actually adjust with that number on the side that you see changing. Beveling is really important because, especially with a metallic surface like this, those bevels on the edges are what's going to catch the light. If I just left the edge plain and sharp, it would just be a solid transition, and I'd have to paint that in. I want to do as much of that for myself in the model as possible, just to make it easier, because the render is going to paint better light in than I could ever. So I want to make sure that that I do that. This is the Insert Edge Loop tool. You get it in Mesh Tools. If you double click it, you can adjust the number of edge loops you insert. It's really useful for inserting even regular numbers of edge loops, making sure that your edges are all symmetrical and they're all straight and you don't have to adjust them or make them more exact anywhere down the line. It's just one of those Maya tools that really helps you keep things precise. And I talked about precision in the last one. If you didn't see that, I don't blame you. It's pretty long and rambly. It's not like quick post-com like it is here. But basically, I talk a lot about how keeping it precise means that it's easier for you to do more faster, and especially when you get to like doing more detail. If you are precise early on, you get to save yourself the time. I'm extruding in like that just so that I can fill those holes, and then I'm merging the verts so that it's one solid contiguous shape. You'll see me do this a lot. This is one of the most important parts of modeling. Just merging all the time, making sure that your mesh is together when you need it, and then I'm beveling each of those corners. Now you'll see that I actually wound up with some NGONS there when I beveled, and I'm going to take care of those in just a moment. But right now I'm making that kind of hole. I really want like a nice even hole, and this is one of the easiest ways to get it inside a piece of square geometry. Do not Boolean. Brett once in one of his little discussions said that Boolean puts an evil curse on your mesh, and it will stay like that forever, and he's right. If you Boolean, you're going to end up with weird geometry, and it's going to pop up in really strange places a lot later down the line. I only Boolean when it's absolutely necessary, which is almost never. It's really good in ZBrush, it's really bad in Maya, and it's really bad in polymodeling. You can see that I'm still checking the vertex faces, checking the vertex faces, just to make sure that I don't have any doubles, I don't have any unclean geometry. And you can also see right there on the left that I got a little bit less clean, and I'm going to fix that in a moment. Bringing it in, sizing it, you can see me basically just doing the same thing, using precise measurements to always keep symmetry. And this is all real time, by the way. This is not sped up at all. So you too can be this quick. I'm using the brush, I'm using soft select. You hit B to get soft select, and you hold B and drag like that if you want to widen or narrow the influence of soft select. And I'm just doing that so that I can get a nice little curve down here. Just gradually edging it out, moving it. I'm going to do a little bit more adjustment later on, but that looks pretty good for now. But I don't want that back to be curved. I want it to be straight like the rest of the wall. So I'm going to grab all those edge loops. There's probably a more efficient way to select all these. You can see me trying to figure it out. But it's fine. I do it fine. I only lose a couple seconds. Going back and forth like a dweeb. So I'm going to grab all those edges on both sides. And then next, I'm going to do something that I actually demonstrated for Michelle in one of our Discord sessions. I just squeeze it in so that it's all aligned. When am I going to fix that? It's bothering me. I think I'm going to fix it now. Yeah. No, I'm going to do this first. You can see the history accumulating on the right-hand side. You got to be careful to delete your history regularly if you want your mesh to always like do what it's supposed to and never have any weird errors that you've never seen before in your life. There, now I'm going to put an edge loop right in the center of that so I can cut it in half and duplicate it across just to absolutely, positively ensure symmetry is correct like it is not right now. I went to orthographic, I grabbed half, I deleted it, then I grabbed the rest. Oop. I will delete history. And then got freeze transformations. Yeah. Then I can duplicate it. Control D to duplicate. scaled by -1 on the x-axis means that I can just duplicate it across. And then I'll merge these. Or combine them and then merge the verts. If you don't merge those vertices, if you try and use a tool like the slice tool, what's it called? The X-Acto knife. If you try to use the knife across it, it's not going to go all the way across. It's going to go only halfway across, and you're not going to be precise. You can see me just adjusting that in a little bit, getting it exactly right. And then just checking it out all around, taking a look, making sure everything is good. I honestly don't actually know why I did that again. It's probably because I was paranoid. Oh no, it's because I actually wanted it the other way around. I wanted to duplicate along the other axis to so that I could properly line up the tiling how I wanted it. So again, Control D to duplicate, scale by the appropriate scaling, combine them, and then I just need to merge those vertices. Checking it out, making sure everything's good. Always look at your model. Never just model and model and model and let your brain turn off and never actually check that it looks good. Check that it looks like it should, like accurate and nice, and like it could actually exist in the real world. Right now, what I'm gonna do with this cube is I'm going to add the other thing that is gonna make this model interesting, which is I want a bunch of planks of wood down each side, and I want them kind of haphazard, and I'm gonna show you how I do that in a moment. I actually do that one in Blender. There's probably a way to do it in Maya, but I flip-flop between Maya and Blender all the time because I only know how to use half of each program because I'm a dunce. Just duplicate, again Control D, and then I'm just scaling, and then I'm just moving it down. Looks pretty good. And then I'm actually going to do this in the wrong order. Wait for me to fuck up. Delete that, and then duplicate it to bring it up. And then I can't get it back, because you can't actually get back deletes when you go back in shape history. It's just a brain fart. So instead, what I should have done is, it's super obvious. You grab it, you duplicate it, and then you delete it. And then you delete the feet that you don't need. Nobody's perfect, and you're never gonna make a model without messing up. The nice thing about modeling is that a lot of it is really forgiving. And what you don't see me do here, but I do a lot, I promise, is occasionally I'll just merge everything, or I'll just combine everything together, duplicate the whole thing, and just shove it off to the side somewhere else in the scene. That, combined with saving regular instances, like continuing to save different files, so when your file is corrupted, you haven't lost the entire model, means that you're never going to be completely no model's ever going to be completely lost. I had a thing happen this summer where I completely neglected saving, and I lost about 6 hours worth of work, but I still had a good bit of my model left. That was for a game project, and it was a fucking disaster. Right now, what you see me doing here with this cube is about how big I think a person would probably be next to this, and I'm just trying to like get an idea of if anything's out of scale, if it looks like anything would be too small or too big if I was that tall standing right there. I highly encourage you to do this if you're making vehicles, like I know a lot of you are. Can you hear Hector in the background? Just a little bit. Now this is, I believe, where I will take it into Blender soon, and I'll show you a neat little trick. You do not have to do this. This is some weird shit. But yeah, you can see me trying to do it here. What I want to do is I want to randomize these beams. And I was just going to maybe like rotate them a little bit randomly, each of them, but I decided that that's going to take fucking forever. That's bullshit. It's not even very accurate. Not that this is accurate. In fact, the point is to be inaccurate. But, what can you do? So I'm going to do a different thing in Blender right now. So just swap in there, imported it into Blender, and this is just an OBJ. I just imported an OBJ. Blender, modeling in Blender is really different than modeling in Maya. Everything in Blender is different. Even navigation is different. It took me forever to get the hang of navigating it. And I still can't do most things, but I can do this. So I'm just grabbing all of those. You gotta swap between modeling and layout a lot. There's probably a better way to do it, but I don't know what it is. Now go into modeling, I select random, and then I say randomize transform. And I usually do it twice because I want it to be a little bit more random. And look, it's random. It's easy as that. What it does is it selects random faces and then it randomly like wobbles them a little bit. And so it looks just a little bit more organic than it normally would have. And so I did that 3 times. I've got 3 different varieties, and I took them right back into Maya. Because I can't model for shit in Blender. So I just grabbed them, I took them right back into Maya, and here's the point where I actually combine all 3. I get a good unit of wall that wouldn't look bad if you just repeated it over and over and over again. I honestly don't know if I'm going to use this for the finished piece, which is going to be the Calypso interior. Last one I was doing a little bit on the Calypso exterior. And I will share you guys my final Photoshop document for that also, in case you really want to see what it looks like when I spend a week compositing and painting on top of one of these model painting things. I'll share that document, and then I'll also share my Maya file, my Blender file, and my Photoshop file for this section of ship wall. Accidentally merged instead of combining there. I think I did that twice. You combine and then you merge. And right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on border edges. And that's going to make the edges that aren't merged together a little bit thicker so I can see where they are. And I can make sure to merge them properly and accordingly. So I'm going to merge those. And by now I'm not really doing anything that you haven't seen me do already. I'm going to bevel a little bit more. You can see me right here checking my randomized beams just to make sure that none of them merged verts where they shouldn't have, but no, they were all good. Unless you mess with the merge after you do it, it'll only merge like points that are just almost exactly on top of each other. Sometimes you've got to do that. Sometimes you got to mess with them if you want 2 points to merge, but they're just, or if you want a whole series of points to merge, but they're just a little farther apart. You can see right here I'm actually swapping these beams because one of them looks just a little bit too close to another that's at the same height, and I don't like that. I want it to look as random as possible. Yeah, like that. And when I tilt my camera up above, you can really see that randomness. It really adds a lot. I know I went by it really fast, but if you want to see more in depth, I learned it from a gnomon workshop tutorial. I don't remember what his name was, the guy who taught it, but he did this crazy cool kit bash all in Blender. He put in some stock models in it, and then wound up with these amazing looking renders that he barely had to touch to make them look like finished, really incredible looking VizDev paintings. I'll find that and I'll put a link to the tutorial in the description of this video. Gnomon Workshop, you can sign up for a 3-day free trial. I did that and I just binged videos for 3 days. I learned so much. I don't have the money to sign up perpetually. But that's going to about wrap it up. I'm just going to bevel the rest of these. Beveling those. Again, middle mouse drag to get them just exactly where you want them. And you can already tell the difference between beveled and unbeveled. They just make it... Beveling just makes everything look so much better. Because it catches the light in a way that regular models just don't. Like unbeveled edges, what it looks like is it ends up just looking like PS2 graphics. It ends up just looking like someone threw together a bunch of planes, put some textures on them, and that was the whole model. And even though that's kind of exactly what I'm gonna do here, it's not gonna look it because I did just a couple of these extra steps. The trick to this is you really want to make sure that you know all the strategies to save exactly the right amount of time. But that's going to be about it. In part 2, I'll go over rendering. It'll be all in Blender. It'll be great. I'll see you then.